I gotta find a game to play. No. 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 Definitely no. What the fuck is that? Hey, what's going on everybody? Maikeru here, and I have been on the biggest metroidvania kick lately, so I want to talk about the indie masterpiece, Axiom Verge.
Developed by Thomas Happ and released on March 31st, 2015 exclusively on the PS4, then spilled out across just about every platform available, Axiom Verge gets a 10 out of 10, and thus ends our review.
If we're being honest here, this game has just been universally praised across the boards. I doubt that there's much that I could say about the mechanics or the gameplay that hasn't been said before, but I do have things that I want to say because this was such a great experience. It's almost a perfect game with just the itty-bittiest, tiniest little flaw.
And that's the double tap dash trench coat. Sometimes it activates when you don't want it to, and that's it. So strap in, let's sprinkle some love on this title. Now first things first, I just want to personally thank Thomas Happ for being a rad dude and making this beast of a game, especially since he developed the entire thing all by himself. That's right, the art, the music, the programming, all of it. This feat only took him about 5 years in his spare time. Now let me put that into perspective for you. Now I'm a software development major in my third year of college. While I was learning the programming language C++, one of the things that I had to do as part of my class was create an ASCII art simulator of the Battleship game, like the board game. I did everything I could to get the AI to figure out where to go next when it got a hit on the board, and then re-randomize its patterns after it sank a battleship. In the end, it didn't work, so I cut that part of the program out. It took me a total of 70 hours and 17,000 lines of code to complete my game, and it looked like this. Now Thomas Happ did this all by himself. What the fuck? And listen to that music. Even Iku perked up while I was playing, mid-homework mind you, and was like, dude, that sounds awesome. The soundtrack is a brilliant mix of ambience and bass, but it catches the atmospheres of the different environments amazingly well. Speaking of which, there are a lot of different places on this map, over 900 in fact. This is actually one of the only complaints I've heard about the game, is that it's too big. As what is now known as a metroidvania game, previously action-adventure platforming exploration game with minor RPG elements, Axiom Verge requires an incredible amount of exploration and backtracking as you gather more items and power-ups. New areas on the map will constantly become available to you as you do so, and sometimes that requires going all the way back, literally to square one, to find new weapons and items to further your quest, or at least make it easier. That being said, I beat Axiom Verge in under 10 hours with 91% of the map completed, so it's not that long of a game. And I say make it bigger, why not? I get so sad when awesome games like this end, and I love exploring. Well, I do now at least.
So if I'm being honest with you guys, I've never beaten a Metroid game. Or a Castlevania game.
It's a secret shame. I've played them, almost all of them. Metroid, Super Metroid, Metroid 2, Metroid Zero, Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion, Castlevania, Simon's Quest, Super Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, Castlevania 64, and Circle of the Moon. But I never beat them. Though I did help beat Symphony of the Night, and I got to the last boss in Circle of the Moon. When I was a kid, getting through these games was such a large undertaking, I just got lost after a while and gave up. I played games because I love them, not really to beat them. But now I have an obsessive-compulsive issue with not beating games, and I've fallen in love with this style of game, and I'm going to beat them all. So stay tuned.
Like this video, subscribe.
Expansiveness of this game really only adds to its mystery and excitement, and there is always something new to find. New weapons like my favorite, the lightning gun. Oh yeah, not having to aim is the best. And new upgrades like the hookshot. And I don't care what it's called, it's a fucking hookshot. Deal. And another complaint some people had with the game is its difficulty, but the controls are so fluid and precise, minus that warp coat annoyance, that every death felt like it deserved it, and there's no pitfalls, so that's pretty rad too. Also, the giant and frequent boss fights were just so epic and satisfying and awesome and cool.
You shouldn't have that much difficulty getting through this game. Some of the secrets are definitely hard to find. Some of the directional issues are kind of difficult to figure out from time to time, but as far as the actual difficulty of the game itself, you shouldn't have any problem beating it.
But what really makes this game as timeless as its predecessors is the story. As well as everything else, let's be honest, this game is just so But really, this is such an awesome story, and it strikes such a strong chord with me. It's just I'm a huge science fiction fan. One of my favorite things in this world has got to be Star Wars, and it's always been Star Wars. I got the movies, the books, the toys, the comics, the games. I love Star Wars. And Star Trek too, but we don't always talk about that. And despite never finishing, I always loved the ideas of Metroid. But Axiom Verge goes one step farther, as well as being placed in a fucked up, creepy, bloody, post-apocalyptic alien world with fucking laser guns and monsters and robots and The game also asks a lot of philosophical questions about reality, something I've always wasted a lot of mental energy on in my spare time. Trace, our protagonist, was a science guy who got blowed up really bad, went blind and crippled, etc. And then all of a sudden he wakes up in this really fucked up place called Sudra and hears some voices, finds a gun, and then we're off. But as he goes along on his journey, things don't really add up. Eventually, after some story stuff, he remembers working on an infinite universe theory and basically destroying the scientific laws of physics. Of course, getting him cast out of the scientific community. But did you know that this actually almost happened in real life?
In my spare time, I tend to watch a lot of science documentaries, especially ones that are involving astronomy or physics, but one that really piqued my interest was a doc about this particle called the Higgs boson.
For a long time, there were two main physics theories regarding our universe. One was the singularity, meaning that this universe is all there is, nothing else, period. This theory limits physical possibility to a singular universe, essentially assuming that the study of physics would have ended with the discovery of the Higgs boson particle, the last piece of what could be described as the periodic table of particles. So it's like a periodic table, but just with particles and not elements. I don't know exactly what it's called, just, follow around best you can. Now, the multiverse theory is way cooler and assumes that there are multiple universes across many dimensional planes and that the laws of physics are different for each one respectively. However, there was no way to prove either theory without the discovery and, for some reason, the weighing of the Higgs boson particle. If the atomic weight of the Higgs was X or below, it proved the singularity. If it was X or above, it proved the multiverse, or vice versa, you get the point. So by using the Hadron Collider and smashing a bunch of particles together, they finally revealed the Higgs boson particle and its weight, which was almost exactly in between the singularity and the multiverse theory, proving nothing and sending the study of physics into an uproar. And for the record, this was a worldwide huge deal, costing billions of dollars, changing history, super cool shit, thousands of scientists from all over the world. But in Axiom Verge, Trace proves the McNultyverse theory somehow and ends up in a different dimension. Somehow. The story is deliberately convoluted, but its questions that it brings up are what are important. Now, a while into the game, you may stumble upon Axiom 1, which is a document that explains the following. It sounds like gibberish, but this is actually some cool shit. Going off of this Charles Schulteverse theory, let me explain. So an algorithm is a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by a computer. Now, these are necessary and work as the basic building blocks of all programs, but there is very little difference between programs and the quote-unquote physical reality we exist in. In fact, our universe has a set amount of standards and instructions just like a program. It's just an extremely vast one, and they can't be broken. That's the laws of physics. So to mix this with all algorithms are universal and valid, regardless of whether or not they are executed, is essentially saying all worlds are real, regardless of whether or not they are recognized, seen, experienced, etc. So whether or not you can experience or even conceive of another universe, it's real regardless. It's kind of a if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it dilemma. Second, cognition is a sub-algorithm whose behavior is to perceive properties of the parent algorithm. So mathematically, cognition, or living matter, is a product of the parent algorithm, or universe, world, whatever. And the living matter's job is to witness the universe it exists in, which in turn describes that living matter back through its own physics. So think about it this way: if humans didn't have eyes, would our universe be the way we think of it right now? No, but we're describing through having eyes, and thus describe the properties of the universe we perceive through them. The universe and the sub-algorithm of life describe one another. Lastly, any algorithm giving rise to the cognitive entities will be perceived as reality by the entities described, which means our universe is our reality, because perceiving other real realities is impossible, because we can only base our imagination on what already exists. It's these kinds of complicated, overarching debates within this game that keep me so tied to it and keep me thinking about it constantly. Well, that and the guns and the guts and the music and the atmosphere and the platforming, and yeah, you get the point. But it's clear that Hap was thinking about these things while developing this game, and our character Trace is also left to try and understand where he is and what he's experiencing and if it's even real. He actually is aware of himself dying and being reborn again and again within the game. He questions if he's even himself anymore. It helps tie you to him because he isn't some speechless drone you're marching around some dank dungeon. He's a person, and a nice person at that, who's lost and scared and confused. There's many theories saying that this game takes place within a computer. So for me, playing it on a computer, it was a game inside a computer inside a computer.
Dude, that's so fucking meta.
The questions of how this is happening stick with you throughout your experience and make every cutscene, boss fight, and item pickup even that much more exciting. I mean, look at this. You eventually receive what is essentially a glitch gun, and it allows you to mess with the fabric of the levels and enemies. I think Hap just knew what he was doing when he was developing this game and exactly who he was developing this game for.
Sorry about the science philosophy enema there, but I love it, and Axiom Verge is just full of this shit. Now, I am going to stop here. I don't want to spoil this game. I want you to go out and play it. There's so much fun to be had. The story, the music, the smooth gameplay. It's fantastic. Axiom Verge gets my vote for probably one of the best games that I've ever played. So go out and get it for yourself. I cannot recommend it more. There is replayability if you like speedrunning. They have an actual speedrun thing set up for it, which is really, really cool. And there are harder difficulties. Now, I didn't go back and get all the items that I missed after beating it, but that kind of comes down to there's more games that I have to review, so I have to keep playing other titles. But I would if I could, so that is saying something in my opinion. So go pick up a copy of Axiom Verge for yourself on whatever platform you would like to play it. I played it on the PC and had a great time. You will not be disappointed. I am Maikeru, and this was the review for Axiom Verge. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.